The umbrellas have arrived. I am sitting here today with Lightbit, the man behind the first ever tokenized reward asset redemption idea. Back then on Counterparty, this was in 2014. This is before Ethereum was even created. Smart contracts were just a white paper at the time. And there were these early adventurers, or you could call them experimenters, that were dabbling within Counterparty and trying to figure out different utility outside of just Bitcoin equals store of value. So I'm very excited to sit here and talk with Mr. Lightbit, one of the very early pioneers on Counterparty. So how's it going, brother?
Doing good. Thanks for having me. It's really good to be able to talk and share the story and talk more about, what's happening with all these new finds and sort of a renaissance of old projects that a lot of us thought were kind of long gone. So Counterparty and Dogeparty and all that stuff.
Right.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely pleasure. I actually used to own an antique store in real life, so I have a complete, utter fascination with the stories behind all of the items, whether they're digital or in the real world, or in your case, both.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how Umbrella sort of came about. There was this cool Counterparty. I'm sure you guys have had people on that talk about it, but just something that was starting to add some functionality to Bitcoin. It started from people burning Bitcoin, actually getting rid of it to create these tokens at Counterparty. And from there, you could make assets. So people were doing all kinds of stuff with them. I was one of them. So
I heard a recent podcast of Adam Levine talking about how much money he's burnt between Dogeparty and Counterparty of the amount of Bitcoin that was spent creating these assets. Looking back at it, I'm sure it's quite painful. But tell us a little bit about pre-Umbrella. How long were you in crypto for? And were you dabbling within technologies even prior to uncovering Bitcoin?
Sure. Yeah. So my name's Paul Schmitzer, but I go by Lightbit, and I've been in this space for a long time. I started getting into, I learned about Bitcoin from a Wired magazine article called The Rise and Fall of Bitcoin. I think it came out after Silk Road. I got into the space probably late 2010. So it's been a long time, over 10 years, decade or more. Funny story, when I first got in, so there weren't any exchanges hardly. BTCE, which is dead now, was a Russian exchange, and they had Bitcoin on it. And you could convert. There wasn't an easy way to even get money onto it. So it was like, I had these dud stocks in E-Trade and like $600 worth. I was like, I'm going to try this, Bitcoin, and had read up on them and was really fascinated from this article. And it took me like 6 hops to get from E-Trade through a bunch of different, probably foreign countries, like I think Armenia and Ukraine and Russia and different things, and all these different payment processors to get my dollars into BTCE to be able to buy my first Bitcoin. And I think by the time it got in, it was like $500 worth after all the fees. But finally was able to get into it. And Litecoin had just started as well. I think it was like half a penny at the time, and Bitcoin was maybe $4 or something. So I kind of got my Lightbit name from the two of those. So I was involved in both early on as a community member, and sort of got my start in the space through that, and then watched all these forks and different things, Litecoin being a fork, and Namecoin, we were trading that on BTCE, and Doge came about, and all these other things came out of that as people, discovered and explored and found ways. Everybody's trying to make the next Bitcoin or Bitcoin better, which, full disclosure, I'm a Bitcoiner. it won't be repeated. It's very unique, and it's something everybody should own. So I'm a big Bitcoiner, but I also have, eyes wide open to ways to, get some functionality into it. And, I'm not a big fan of a lot of projects that are out there. Not really a big fan of Ethereum, but I like some of the things that they're doing. I just try to make a big difference between, Bitcoin sound money, it's the soundest money ever. Ethereum, all those other projects, Counterparty, they're all just new companies. And there's definitely a difference in my eyes. So I don't mind, now that I know that difference, that there's, sound money, that I want to eventually, that's the winner. But there's also all these other tech companies and tech that you can use to really improve legacy systems. So with that differentiation, I am able to I think a lot of Bitcoin maxis can't do that, but I'm able to, look at things with more eyes wide open. So that led me to Counterparty. It came out, it started to use some of the ideas Ethereum was trying to do before they were able to actually make their genesis and mine, do all the stuff that they did to start it. So, the group put that onto Bitcoin, and we burned a lot of Bitcoin to be able to start it. And so that led me to Counterparty, and I've been in the space for a while too. I've helped on Particle as a privacy project that was based off of Bitcoin, and I was on the project as an advisor and as a team member for probably 4 or 5 years. Really big into the privacy space with Monero and some other coins, just big privacy advocate. And so trying to find, projects that I could help out as. My background, just to do a bit about that, is I'm actually a licensed architect. So I've been doing architecture for about 25 years, for a long time. And that's my trade. So I'm a designer, artist, and I design hospitals. That's kind of what I do in real life. But my hobby, I was able to kind of make my hobby sort of a part-time job. And for some points in my life, I was able to sort of semi-retire when my girls were born. And for a couple of years, I have 2 girls. And when both of them were newborns to about 2, I was able to stop architecture, stay at home. And I actually started working on crypto projects like Particle and those sort of things from there. So, and right now I'm still doing architecture, and then doing all kinds of things I'm sure you're familiar with a lot of, crypto. Mm-hmm. And then, this last probably 12 months or 24 months, there's been this whole new renaissance with projects like Umbrella, where, projects that ideas for businesses, ideas for not necessarily art, not what a lot of people think with NFTs now, but a lot of bright business ideas, how to do things in a different way and maybe leverage Bitcoin, leverage the chain, tokenize things that maybe you could never tokenize before. Just different business plans, business ideas that started coming out through the forums with Counterparty and eventually Dogecoin or Dogeparty, and things like that started to become new ways to think. So I think a lot of us were really excited about that.
Right. So were there, between dabbling within Bitcoin late 2010 to creating Umbrella, were there any influences to bringing this type of new age business to Counterparty with the redeemable token for a real world asset, like maybe the early experimentation within Namecoin, or was there something outside of crypto that influenced the idea of Umbrella?
So the idea of Umbrella, Namecoin was, something where, you could register domains. So there was this thinking that, okay, you could tie a domain to something on chain and own it and have to redeem it or have to renew it and actually could trade it. So that's a whole line of thinking where you look at these as assets. We weren't calling them NFTs, and I personally think NFTs are more one-on-ones. So I tend to lean towards assets, but what kind of assets can be on chain? And so with Umbrella was actually an idea I had, a Bitcoin umbrella, you saw in the picture, where I just thought it'd be cool in this whole wave of, black umbrellas, if there was this orange umbrella with a Bitcoin logo. It's circle already. It looks like an umbrella somewhat. I was like, that'd be cool to make. And back then, so this is the Bitcoin Talk page I set up, and I started looking at how can you make them, and all these, and you really need to have a custom order. I wasn't rich, so I couldn't put up the money to do it. So my thought was, okay, well, I can create a token on Counterparty that represents an umbrella. So I called it Umbrella, minted it, made 600 of them because the company I was going to use had 600 minimum order. And I created this, basically an ad on Bitcoin Talk, which was like, okay, look, I think it'd be cool to have this umbrella. I'm hoping a bunch of other people would. You have to have 600 minimum order. And I created a tokenized order, or basically a one-to-one swap, physical token and digital representation of it, where it costs, I put a price of what whatever 600 was, and the cost of that, I wasn't making any money. I was just like, it would cost, $34 or $24. I can't remember. If all of us were to put it into a pool. This is a cool way to have everybody, buy as many as you'd want. You could exchange that token once we have them made. So I was able to collect all the money into an account, and it's on chain, so everybody can see what I'm doing with it. I could use that to put the order in for the umbrellas, and then once I had them in possession, people could turn in. They would send back their umbrella token to me, and I would ship out their order. And somehow with a website or whatever, that would be taken up. So that was the whole thinking was, let's set a 600 minimum order and try to sell. So I went through a whole process of, looking at styles and designs, and you can see them on there. And the cool thing, so back then there wasn't the idea, if you're familiar, or your viewers are familiar with Counterparty, you can set up dispensers, which are kind of like vending machines. If you do an art, you set up a dispenser and you can set a price, and you tell them how many you're dispensing and how many, what the price is. You could set it for 10 or 20 or 1 or whatever. And that's an easy way to kind of vend out your art. Well, that wasn't available even back then, but there were some startups that I was talking to that had the idea of this vending machine even before, Xchain or free wallet, some of the tools even had those in there. So I think they used that. Everybody thought that was a good idea, so they kind of worked it into the code, but dispensers weren't even around or anything back then as well. So I was going to use it. Yeah. So I was going to set up a vending account on the website, and people could send. They didn't have to talk to me. They could send it to that account. It would vend out an umbrella. And then so I knew what wallet had the umbrellas. And then once I had it on, once I had the physical item, I could have them exchange it in, and we, swap addresses, and then it gets sent to them. So. So
I found this website from, I think this was one of your posts talking about the history of Umbrella. And this was on the Wayback Machine here from, I believe this is 2013 even. Yeah, it says November 2013. And you can see here, only $25 for the umbrella. Jesus, not
35% off.
35% off. I mean, today we see Bored Ape, there's like a Bored Ape figurine that's selling for $200 and people are like ready to just throw as much money at it. But it's funny talking with the OGs of how cheap some of these early assets really were. And then people were very combative of saying, oh, that's too expensive at the time. Did you receive any sort of criticism for the pricing? I know on here for the Bitcoin Talk forum, it says $48, and then on there it's the discount. What was the sentiment around the community when you began going about this endeavor?
No, I don't know if there was any pushback. Nobody got the idea back then. Like they just didn't get it. It was too confused. It was too outside the box, I think. They didn't understand that I could buy this ticket basically for a future umbrella to have, and I could do it all on Bitcoin. And it's it's a different way of commerce kind of thing. So I didn't have any takers. Nobody. I had all 600 of them. No one ever took. No one ever got it, I don't think. So
yeah, not one comment on this thread from the original Bitcoin Talk forum. And you could tell how early it is. Here in one of your comments, it says, my first thought is to put 300 shares on the DEX. So it was still even, couldn't decide if it was shares, if it was a token, if it was an asset. It's still so early to figure out what it even was.
Yeah. So first, and there I'm talking about this, none of this has been updated. So this is all, my original copy, but, we're talking about a DEX. Bitcoin gets, a lot of slack for being dumb and slow and everything, but, you put a little bit of extra stuff being built on top of different layers on it. And all of a sudden, this is from 2014. We're talking about decentralized exchange, no middlemen kind of thing, and only on Bitcoin. So, way before Ethereum was around. So, you get a lot of people marketing, this is the first DEX, this is the first, you can't do this or that. And, you could do it. You just had to be open to figuring it out. So
was there anybody back then around the community that you shared this idea with to bounce the ideas off of to see if it was even good? Or did you do this completely on your own?
So there was actually another forum for Counterparty. I think it was forum.counterparty or something like that, or Counter. So I shared this. I think there's probably a historical page on the Counterparty forum as well. And I think I ran it past some people there too. But, I've had a couple small businesses here and there, just, and so I knew how to kind of like set up the plan for it, and I wrote it all out and I went through the logical steps of how it would actually work. So I didn't really have a lot of, so here's Vend. That was the company that, I don't think they're around anymore, but that was the company that was going to do the vending machine. That might have been Adam Levine's company.
Yeah, he was talking about it yesterday in Adam McBride's and Leo's Twitter Spaces. He mentioned the vending machine.
Yeah, so that might have been one of his, companies. So I can't remember, but So if I did talk through it with anybody, it would have been probably on that Counterparty forum, because on there people were, name grabbing and different squatting and different things like that. And people would send you kind of goofy assets they made up and stuff. But I really wanted to I saw an opportunity to basically kind of do something different, and it would work. If I would have gotten 600, that's what happened in history. Historically, we would have done this. So I just didn't have any takers. I couldn't do it all myself. And it kind of, for as far as I knew, it kind of died, until last year.
Tell us a little bit about the rediscovery process. Was it something that you realized was happening within this growing NFT archaeology? Was there a community that reached out to you to help relaunch this and bring the original vision back into the historical realms?
Sure. So I had no clue that there were what people are calling archaeologists. I think it's Adam McBride and those guys. NFT archaeologists or historical NFTs. I didn't know that was a thing, but just being in Bitcoin and kind of keeping an eye on Counterparty and some of the people that I follow still on Twitter. I'm not really on Bitcoin Talk much last few years, but Twitter's kind of where I get most of it, or Telegram. But what got me thinking about this again and starting to hear in the space was the whole rise of all the rare Pepes and the old Spells of Genesis and some of these old classics that were made on Counterparty, and we're starting to have a revival. And there was a whole group that were ex-rare Pepe artists, or historical rare Pepe artists like Skrilla and Indelible and those guys that were starting to create fake rares, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but it's okay. So there's this whole creating, picking up where the rare Pepe left off and creating fake rares. And so that got you back onto the platform. I logged in with my old seed words and found out I had, all these old assets again still. Everything still worked, even after all these years. I didn't realize that the Explorer was up. I didn't know the wallets were still up or anything. And little did I know that there was actually a lot of development that was happening in the hiatus that I had personally taken. So when I went back and looked at some of the historical ones I had, Umbrella really caught my eye because it was, a cool idea. So I started to look at it and actually talk to one of the guys I know that's trying to get into the space at the time, was Modibo. He's a crypto artist. And I talked to him about maybe doing, so it seemed like what people were doing was not adding artwork to old ones. This kind of did that, and Test did that. But we were kind of reviving old tokens, I guess. But people were making NFTs as art, JPEGs. And so I was like, well, let's just this is an old historical thing. I wasn't thinking it had any value because it's historical value, but here's a historical value. Here's a historical token. Let's create some new artwork. So Modibo actually made the artwork on it. And I put it onto there. So I put it onto the chain and updated it. So when you looked at it in the Explorer, now you had some artwork to it, and didn't really do anything for about a month with it. We added it. Then there was a push to support JDog, who's one of the developers at Counterparty, to create a bunch of these old assets, sell them off in Scarce City, and basically allow him to work on this full time, quit his day job and work. Yep. So he had been kind of doing a lot of work on Dogeparty and Counterparty in the process. So I donated the first Umbrella to that auction, which was a collection of all these historical, and whoever bought it would have that. But still wasn't a lot of hype. And then I just made a dispenser and put 2 in it at a time. You can look back in the historical dispenser, but two at a time at, like, say 200 Satoshis or something like that, or 2 million Satoshi. I can't remember. Nothing much, but maybe like $100 or $200, and put it in. You could get 2 for 1, and then all of a sudden that got cleared within like 12 hours or 24 hours. Then I did it again, and those got cleared. And then I started looking a little bit, and I got a couple DMs, and people were saying that these historical NFT archaeologists were talking about it on all these Telegram chats that I wasn't on. So I started looking into it. Then I had a couple people reach out, and I'll tell you, the guys all do like a really good job of finding value in the story and the historical significance. So sure, this was an old token. It has new art on it, but specifically with Umbrella, what came out of it was all these archaeologists that were looking and saying this was actually maybe the first time that somebody was trying to tokenize a physical piece onto that's not what I was doing when I first started. I was trying to make a business of, making these Bitcoin, or at least an opportunity for people to own a Bitcoin umbrella. But they dug up the old Bitcoin Talk forum, a bunch of different things, and the whole history of it came about. So if you look at my pinned tweet on Lightbit, you can see kind of my take. And I'm actually going to make this into a sub-asset for the umbrella holders and kind of summarize it all and put the original picture from the forum in there and kind of airdrop it to everybody. That I just have a fun time to do it. But,
that's awesome. First, I want to say this is probably the most active dispenser I've ever seen. There's 66 sales in the last 5 months for something that has 300 tokens. You could tell there is definitely a demand for this. And then when I move over to OpenSea, you could see the floor right now is 2.6 ETH, and there's a lot of active trading history as well. So I did just want to mention that, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I never sold them for the prices that those are going for, but I'm proud of how we actually distributed it. So if you go to dankset.io, dankset.io, right? Go there. That's a really cool explorer from one of the artists on Bitcoin. And type in their umbrella. Yep. And so it'll give you the prices for sale. But if you go down, I'll show the wallets. And if you look at keep going, the holders, I thought in here it showed. So the distribution of it, I'm really proud of, because I was like, here's a historical. Yeah, there you go. 210 holders.
210 holders for 300 supply. That's what? It's like a 67% ish unique owner ratio. I still have 25 or 26 of them. So I have the most. I think someone might have 10 or something, 14. But so yeah, I tried to really distribute it. But the cool thing with this, just Jake, was what we're doing is we're actually bringing the story full circle. So I haven't shared too much on Twitter. I've done a couple blurbs about it, and they actually created a Discord. We have a Discord for the umbrella. That's just some of the holders and trying to do some things and spread it out to other areas. So they have the guys that are running this have created an avatar on one of the metaverses. I think Somnium. Mm-hmm. There's one of the buildings has this umbrella art. This umbrella, yeah, there it is. Has umbrella graphic draped over the whole skyscraper. So the whole facade is the umbrella art. So they're creating some other. They're spreading outside of the original idea. But what I'm doing for everybody, I'm doing this free, is I'm actually creating. I'm having a limited edition custom umbrella created for all the holders of umbrella. So I'm actually going to probably went back and forth. Like, do we want to trade in the umbrella like the original story for an umbrella? And it didn't make sense because you saw some of the prices that, that for an umbrella that's high. So I'm going to create a sub asset, and we're going to do the whole exchange and do a swap where people the sub asset will be dropped to all the umbrella holders, and those guys can turn in those. They can send them back or send them in for the physical, and then the physical umbrella will be delivered. And the physical umbrella has a bunch of really cool historical Bitcoin stuff on it. So it's got the look of the umbrella, the Bitcoin umbrella we wanted to do, but I also added a bunch of things. So we tried to customize it a lot. There's like a brass or chrome piece on the umbrella that's going to have one of the really seminal equations for how the supply of Bitcoin comes about and how halvenings happen and everything. And there's two pieces of code that kind of band the inner band of the umbrella that's going to talk about it's the code, the actual code for the 21 million and the
what's the other part of it? I think it's the halvening cycle or something, like some seminal pieces in it. So those will be limited edition, that we'll do as 300. So I actually burned 300 of them too. So in the process of distributing, I set a timeline that was like in 24 hours or 48 hours, I'm going to burn 300. And so we did a burn where we destroyed 300 of the 600, because 600 was what we needed originally.
Right.
So there's only 300.
Here's the destruction right here. I just pulled it up on XChain.
Yes. So at block 708, 708.
Oh, wow. That's funny. That's unique. Yeah. So right here, 300 burns on November 8th, 2021.
Yep. Yeah. So I had said we're going to do it. I planned it at 708, 708, and it worked out good. Sometimes that's hard to nail down. But.
That's OG right there, because I would never be able to figure that out.
Yeah. So that's the story of Umbrella. I'm really excited. I had posted this on Twitter, but one of my probably biggest things that's going to happen this year is delivering all those and seeing them. I really was trying to get them done by the big Miami conference, but it's just, I've been busy in real life, and I've got, I just want to make sure it's right. But I'll get those all out this year, and the story will be complete. So something that started 2014, nobody got. This new generation of people that kind of, are thinking outside the box, get to enjoy those. So, yeah. Hopefully this is a great story for you guys, because it shows, and there's two other projects that I've done from that era. One that people know about, one that I haven't talked about. It's kind of, you'd really have to dig to figure out, but may come to life someday.
I was going to say, can you enlighten us? Or are you waiting for the right time? You want to continue on the adventure?
Well, the one that people know. So, Umbrella, it wasn't an art piece. It was a physical 1-to-1 swap. You bought a ticket and you got an umbrella. And as far as we know, that's probably the first time that's happened. I think that, historically that was, nothing happened back then, but that was the first attempt at it. And it wasn't planned that way. It just, that's, as history goes, that's just, that's what's written in the books now. The other project's actually on Dogeparty. And if you go to DogepartyRunner.com, on Twitter here,
okay,
just Dogeparty Runner. So this one's one I keep meaning to get out, but I just haven't. Oh. So this is, and some of the key links are in that, the header there. But this was a game I created as a trivia game. Maybe go to the other link.
Yeah. Where is it?
That shows the assets, but this is the,
so this holy shit. Yeah. August 31st, 2014 is the first Bitcoin talk post.
This was actually a game. So these tokens, runner, hints, clues, and prizes, didn't have art, but they were game tokens on Dogeparty. And as far as I know, this was before Spells of Genesis. We didn't play it very long, but it was basically a trivia scavenger hunt game. So I had a website. It's not that one anymore, the XDPR, but I do have, I am rebringing the site back. It's dogeparty.com, but this explains the gameplay. And basically, people would buy a runner token, and that would give you an entry into the game. On the website, it would give you clues every day. If you were trying to solve it, and then you would get 2 hint tickets and 2 clue tickets, and you could trade those in for more hints and clues if you couldn't solve it. So they were these exchanging of tokens. Free exchange. So, and then say you solved it really fast. There's a free market where, I don't think that, oh yeah, there you go. So there's a free market where, you could trade those. So not only do you have a game, but you have a game that has tradable tokens if you don't use them. So say you have a bunch of clues because you're so smart, you solved it. So you have all these clues. You could actually trade them on the open market, maybe get some of your money back and different things like that. So I may have this example page up on, well, there you go.
Does this look familiar?
Well, that's without any of the
art
CSS,
and stuff. Yeah. So this was an actual functioning website. Do you know how many, do you know off the top of your head, maybe how many active users it had or the amount of people that you knew?
We played it two or 3 weeks. So this was right around the time they kind of stopped. As far as I know, I think they were stopping kind of working on Dogeparty. So I think a lot of that coincided with like, this wasn't be used.
Wow. So this
for a couple of weeks, they were winners, and I was giving away miners. So the winner, the way it worked was you got a start the week. You bought a runner token, so you could see right there it cost 7,500 Doge, which probably was like $3 or something at the time, or maybe even less, or 5 XDP, which is Dogeparty. The prize for the week was a Grid Seed Mini. I had people donate all these silly assets they were making, like Reddit and different things. So I was giving those away to players. And the game address was where you would send it to get the runner. So you send that to that game address, you got a runner token, and you got 2 clues and 2 hints. So all these are 2014 assets. And so if you go to that,
here I'm trying to find the Dogeparty timeline here somewhere. I'll find it in a second.
I'll keep talking though. But so if you go to that asset, then you would see like when the age was. Yeah. So in there, if you type, so you can see on the asset description, these are all see Dogeparty Runner. So
wow.
All the different tokens. So I put those in when I was minting it. So hints was created 8 years ago. It has game hints. And if you hit, there's another page, or if you expand your page by 20.
Oh, there it is, runner.
So runner's one of them. So that I limited to 100 at the time. All these have been locked. So, because what I'm doing now is I'm going to release these, and I'm trying to work with some of the people I know in the space to figure out a good strategy. I was really happy with how Umbrella got released, and I'm trying to figure out a game to releasing these. So
these are historic. Have you thought about adding images to any of these, even though it would be after the fact?
I have. I don't know what that would look like. I've thought about inviting artists to come do that, and having some kind of like whoever wins got certain ones, or there's a number of ways you could do it, but yeah, I think they ultimately want to have art, even though they're actually game assets. They're not art assets.
Right. For the historic precedent, as a collectible, the image after the fact's cool. And so it looks like Runner was launched August 15th, which is a day after, or maybe within the first 24 hours of Dogeparty even being launched. I know the 14th is the first day.
Yeah, it was right up there. So, so the game plan was in the works. It was like, let's make a game. Let's use these tokens to, so there were 4 main tokens. There was a prizes token, which if you won, you got the prize, right? There was the clues, the hints, and the runner. Then I also made claims, which was I never used, but claims was one of the original. There was one called Trade In down here, and there was one called Victor. I think, yeah. But I also made Uno, Dos, Tres, Cuatro, Cinco, just in case. I never used them, but those are there. There's only one. Maybe I do those for art or something. I don't know. So
wow. So active use predating Spells of Genesis on Dogeparty I might be around the same time as Sarutobi, might even be before. I know that it's a little bit of a different dynamic, but I think this has claim to potentially be one of the first in-game assets used, if there was actual play on the game.
Yeah, there was. We had a couple weeks, and all that. I'm trying to revive the old website where we had some of that, but I think I have pretty good documentation of all those. And then the Wayback Machine has some of it too. But yeah, so what I'm thinking of way I'm distributing these, I've run this by a couple people, is we haven't settled on it, but is to do a starter pack. So if you look, Runner's the big one. That's the big one. You had to buy that one. Prizes, hints, and clues were all the game tokens. So my thinking was, if we did a starter pack where you could buy a runner, you bought a pack and it came with a runner, like say 10 clues and 10 hints, and then maybe like 5 prizes or something. So you got you got 4 historical tokens, and then maybe what we do is to collect, say, 20 clues, or you have to collect 20 hints. So there's start to make like a market for these where people can buy and sell them. And the goal is, say, if you get 20 clues, you can trade those in for one of the other ones, like trade in claims, trade in. Maybe claim.
Yeah, Victor, maybe.
Yeah, I'll have to look at the supply. Let's see, trade in.
And so you have complete access Victor. You have complete access to all these, and you. Yeah,
I think Victor, claims, and trade in are still. I can change the supply because I think the plan is to make Victor have 20. So
yeah,
Victor's
it's not locked
like
yet,
real. Yeah. So Victor has 20, trade-in has 30, and claims has 30. So what you would do is you'd actually trade in clues to get one of these rare coins, and then the clues you trade in will be destroyed. So we're destroying some of the supply. You're trying to collect them to trade in to get more rare. All of these are 8 years old. So I don't know. I'm trying to make it into a game where
it's a gamification of historical value, but still similar to along the lines of how the original game was curated. That's, to me, that's fun. That's awesome.
Should be fun. So on the Twitter, if you follow the Twitter, I haven't done this for probably a month or two, but I was giving away, having fun and giving away a bunch of historical assets. So like I said, we had a bunch of people donate. So that was one of the miners we were giving away. Those are like $1,000. But anyway, so Hello was one. So I had a bunch of asset creators back then donate to a donation address if they wanted to have these things given away. And so I have all these old ones. And so on Twitter, I was saying, you gotta, if you like and retweet, trying to get some awareness of this project, because nobody really knew what was going on.
Well, I can tell you after this, I'm gonna issue a vague tweet about a Dogeparty asset that might predate Spells of Genesis, and there's gonna be a ton of interest.
Yeah, so some of the old guys that you can see that are following, they know about it because I kind of joined up with this historical, and you're joined in there, but historical group that's doing some stuff on it. So this one I really want to get out. I think it'll be fun to see it get out. And then, I'm up for ideas on art, or if somebody wants to do some art for it. Dogeparty Runner, searching on Xchain, you can see there's a lot of runner and prizes. They got cool names, and they were super early and could have some cool art to them. So
Yeah, there's
I think it'd be
definitely
neat.
some familiar faces on there.
Yep, yep. And then the other one, I don't really like talking about,
That's
but
okay.
if you search hard enough, you guys could probably find it. But it's on Bitcoin. It's on Counterparty, and I wrote a full business plan. I actually tried to seek out seed funding for it, and I think what we're going to do on it is maybe turn it into a DAO, where I don't have time to do it, but I think the idea is valid, and it's not an art project. It's a full business. It's sort of based around auctions. It's sort of like a penny auction site built on Counterparty, using Counterparty tokens to basically run an auction house. So say you had like Amazon rewards, they're only good on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you had, hotel points, they're only good on there. But if you had tokens that you used to bet on things to win prizes, and then you didn't need them anymore, if you could sell them, and you could do that with Counterparty, because there's a whole DEX, there's a whole aftermarket for some. And these are really, it falls somewhere in between Test, which was the first Counterparty. Umbrella was later that year. This project was like within the first month or two so it's really old.
Oh wow, that's
so
unique.
But yeah, there's a whole business plan. I got to go through it again, because if I make it into a DAO or something that's community owned, maybe it never becomes anything, because you really got to build the site, you got to build everything for it. But I think it could be it's a legitimate business model. The business plan was right. It could work, and it could all happen on, it could all use these tokens and interact with a website and work. I just don't have time to do it. But if I did turn it into something like that, I'd have to rewrite the plan, because I think I was looking to do a seed fund, which means I had to talk to the SEC and a bunch of different things. So I don't want to do all that. I'd rather just, if it comes about, it comes about. But anyway, so 3 projects, that weren't art. They're not JPEGs, but just hopefully show some new or some old use cases for these assets. If there's a lot of different ways you can do it. So, and that's why I like Counterparty. That's why I like Dogeparty, because it's super easy to, you can create assets and do airdrops, Subassets. You can drop dividends to people. So like this one that I was talking about, if people owned it, it was a DAO, they would earn revenue dividends off of it. It would all be automatic. So, it would just happen, and people could use it. So there's a lot of really cool, use cases. I don't really see that happening on a lot of, like Ethereum seems real based on, collectibles and some music, some, you can do all that on, Bitcoin, in case you didn't know.
Yeah.
People didn't.
As I begin to talk with more Counterparty and Dogeparty, excuse me, OGs, the idea and topic of sub-assets keeps popping up. Seems to be one of the next steps or evolutions of these OG tokens. I guess maybe it's in terms of rewarding your existing audience and collectors, or kind of just gamifying the existence, which is what you've been talking about. And gamifying historical significance is one of my favorite topics within ETH. Mooncats is kind of doing this, which is what I love. I think that idea of historical significance is a very select few, right? You have maybe 10,000 assets total between multiple chains, maybe 50,000 total. So there's only a select amount, and the historical community is still growing. But in my view, I think it's a surefire bet. It's just once the NFTs kind of get past this like flippers mentality, whether it's a bear market that kind of washes it all out or something, the innovation and the attribution to the OGs will definitely be commended.
Yeah. And I like what you said about the gamifying. I think I think that's fun. That's the fun part about it is like you can, any artist could figure out like, I want to do this with my token or, like that dank set that I was showing you, the creator of that Dim Zion, he's a Bitcoin OG artist. I think he was one of the rare Pepe artists. I can't recall, but these guys are actually programming into their assets where they interact with each other. I'm not sure if you've run across any of those. There's another guy, I think it's Ham Slice on Dogeparty that's done this, but there's a game, it's like built like a retro high score game where you can type in your name and it goes to a different asset and they talk to each other, and the screen on that, the artwork or whatever on that shows your name. And then other people can use another asset to vote you up or down the leaderboard. It's pretty cool. And then Dim has made these interactive. So he has this Rare Vision is the one that he did first. Rare Vision has a bunch of sub assets, and they talk to the Bitcoin chain. Whenever somebody mentions Rare Pepe or burning event or distribution or anything, certain artwork pops up. So you can have a full screen, and whatever of these collectibles are in your wallet, you link your wallet, sign it, and your screen changes depending on what action's happening in the Bitcoin chain and what's in your wallet. So you could collect more and have different activities, and there's moods and visions and dreams. So it's pretty cool. It's, so each artist can leverage these sub assets to, some guys are just dropping sub assets every day. So you want to collect their art, pay up front and collect their collectible if it's a fake rare or whatever. And then you're rewarded down the road with all these really cool, and they could be their own pieces that you pay, 100, 200, 400 bucks for, that are just given to you. And the artists, are having a lot of fun doing that too. And they're mixing in music, they're mixing in videos. So it's really cool to see the creativity. And from what I've heard, a lot of people are starting to really support all the tools like XChain. They're supporting it and trying to really grow this into going from almost dead, having this renaissance, to being like, well, this is really what it wants to do. And this is what a lot of us from 8 years ago were like, this is really what we want to see. But it took all this time to get there. So
it just continues to add to the story. That's what makes it even more valuable. I have seen some artists on Dogeparty. I think Dogfather, and there is another one, Dogerman, I think have started doing the sub assets. And then I know on Counterparty, there's the fake rare community, and starting to see some of the newer projects with fake rares. And on Dogeparty, there's like Rare Rejects and Rare Doge, which are kind of doing something similar as well. It's only going to continue to add more value. And now with Emblem Vault, that you could kind of vault them and tokenize them on Ethereum for even more exposure, it's going to be big. Emblem Vault's going to do a marketplace at some point. They've said that that's one of their plans to help.
Oh, good.
Whenever the UX and UI of both of the party interfaces are I guess updated, will probably help, because a lot of the newer entrants are familiar with, the like modern, futuristic, sleek kind of approach. And then when you go on Dogeparty and Counterparty, it kind of feels like you're on like AOL, like back in the day, right. which I will happily take the trade-off to pay, 15-cent transaction fees versus $100 transaction fees.
Oh yeah. Amen, brother.
Amen. Well, Paul, I really enjoyed this conversation. I have to say, after unveiling even more things that you were working on back in the day, I'm very happy to promote and be a part of the community. And if you ever need my help or anything like that, always here. Need to get an umbrella, need to get some more of those assets, but you are definitely a pioneer in the space, and we all thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate you having me on and, bringing awareness and spreading it. And I think everybody's really excited to see what you got next, who you got talking next. And
yeah, I had the XCP guy, XC Pinata was on recently, had some of the Dogeparty guys, even more to come, breaking the way in there. So thank you again, Paul. Thank all of you guys for listening and watching. Follow Paul, get an umbrella, and we'll see you next time.